So now that we've seen the best animes of all time, we're now going to watch Mother Basement's worst anime of all time. So let me know down below what you guys think. For me, it would have to be like Make My Day and Yakitori, two of the worst animes I've ever seen. So let me know down below, like and comment if you like videos like this and want to see more, and hop into the stream as well.
10 years is a long time to be doing anything.
For you.
Free rent.
Okay, that's funny a second time.
Good thing too, because while I stole this joke from a comment on my best of all time list, if I put her on this one, someone might legitimately kill me. I've watched a lot of great anime over the last decade, but I've definitely seen even more terrible ones. So today, in our second round of celebrations for Mother's Basement's 10th channelversary, we're gonna be ranking the absolute worst of them. A task I take, I won't say no joy in, but certainly less joy than talking about anime I love, which I'd very much like to see more of than I've seen bad ones. And that's why my best buds, Tristan, Miles, and I have started a new podcast, The Quest for the Best, to give ourselves an excuse to watch more great anime more often and a place to talk about them on our way to compiling a top 100 list of the greatest anime ever made. To get the
I think definitely when that's finished, I'll check it out and see, or maybe if you guys are interested enough, I would legitimately try to sit down and think of my top 100 best and worst animes of all time.
All rolling, we started with three of our personal all-time favorites, Frieren, Patlabor 2 the movie, and Baccano. And coming up next, we got Project A-ko, one of the most important, not to mention fun and gorgeous anime movies ever made. That episode drops this Monday, and we'll have a new one for you every Monday after that. You can follow our epic quest by subscribing to the channel linked up there or down in the doobly-doo, or if you'd prefer, you can use all the other links down there to find us at all the usual podcasting places. It's a great podcast, and I honestly think you guys are gonna love it. Plus, I would love to see all of you join us in our journey. But right now,
you know, I mean, with the Trash Taste podcast, it might be worth checking this out. I originally subscribed to that one to listen to anime takes, and that never happened. So maybe a legitimate, actual, we talk about anime podcast might be interesting.
now I've got to let the hate flow through me. And make no mistake, this list is about hate. You're not about to see something like King's Game or Garzy's Wing on here, because watching those things doesn't make me hate myself. When a show is truly so bad it's good, I believe that does actually make it good in some way, or at least less than things that just straight up suck. In the right context, the thrill of discovering some new, previously unimaginable way that an anime or film's creators f***ed up beyond all comprehension can completely replace or even surpass.
I'm trying to think of like any other than the obvious ones, like anime where I'm just like, I do not enjoy it, to see if I've dropped my dropped anime, and maybe that'll ring some bells. One where there's like the magical high school prodigy, and it was like cybernetics and magic or something like that. I dropped that one because that was just not very good. Yeah, Make My Day, Yakitori. The Mobile Suit Gundam Requiem, that was awful. Whisker Away, that was awful. Jibate, or however you pronounce it, also awful. It's like this weird bug anime original, super bad. Drop Terminator Zero, we never finished that either. Tokyo Revengers, I dropped that. I thought that one was awful as well. Just a really stupid story. It's never been just because it's so bad that except for a couple of these were so bad I had to drop it. It wasn't due to like any material that was like, oh, this is too much for me. Like, let's say Goblin Slayer shocked a lot of people. It just wasn't good. So I'm going to be very curious to see what his worst animes are and why they are that way.
Any conventional entertainment value that thing loses from being objectively terrible. Number 10, Rent a Girlfriend is the polar opposite of that.
Okay, we're already starting off at a weird spot. Two sisters. Now I gotta look that up real quick. Anime where guy dates stepsister and teacher. Domestic Girlfriend. I think that's a worse show than Rent a Girlfriend. Yeah, I think way worse Domestic Girlfriend than Rent a Girlfriend. But that's just me.
Anime so good it sucks. The animation and art direction, acting, and music are legitimately quite impressive, but all I can think as I drink in those luscious production values, or the manga's fantastic art for that matter, is what a colossal goddamn waste of human potential this whole cash grab harem treadmill is. Just imagine if all of this acting talent and moe craftsmanship had been poured into waifus with even a hint of likable personality. Besides, Mami Nanami, of course, who is entirely valid for hating everyone else in the show.
I think this is just I mean, there's a lot of controversy around this anime, and a lot of drama it caused, mainly because I think of what happens in the manga, but it is definitely, this is already a crazy list, and we're at number 10.
Especially Kazuya, the walking twitlonger with zero redeeming qualities and even less sex appeal, whose very existence condemns everyone around him to an eternity of nothing ever happening. And because of that problem, the parts of Rent-a-Girlfriend that are unironically kinda good, like episode 1 or most of season 3, somehow end up feeling even worse. Because
I mean, I've only watched season 1, and that was when it first came out. Never bothered with season 2 or 3, but it was all right. I think I rated it like a 5 or a 6. It wasn't that bad.
those are the bait that pulls you into the trap and keeps you from escaping it until it's far too late. Here you are thinking, yes, it's finally paying off. Chizuru's really digging into her hopes and dreams, showing us what makes her tick. Kazuya's proven his value as a man and romantic partner. There's finally like a story with goals for the characters to work toward instead of shit just kind of happening because they needed 20 minutes of waifu for you to stare at. It took a while, but this anime is going somewhere, man. And then that somewhere is this.
Well, that's a copyright strike, probably. Thanks for that.
Rent-a-Girlfriend lower than 10th place because, objectively speaking, it is a competently made anime that mostly just sucks on a spiritual level. But let me...
I think his only... I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it is a problem, but it's just the fact that... How do I word this without saying the wrong words? I think it's because it just promotes a lot of Japanese interest where it's guys watching the girl date another guy. And I think that's why it's such a huge problem.
Put it this way. If you put a gun to my head and said, watch SAO now or die, I'd full dive into that shit with zero hesitation.
And you know what? I rewatched Sword Art Online, probably 4 or 5 years ago. It wasn't as bad as I remembered it being, but it definitely wasn't that great. But again, it was kind of genre defined, so.
It's not great, but it's dumb fun. If you did the same thing with Rent...
I never did get into after I watched the one with the female protagonist, Gun Gale Online, but I never watched after the original Sword Art Online ended. Realization or whatever it was called.
To Girlfriend though, I'd probably still watch it. I do have a lot of loved ones who I'd like to see again more than I don't want to see Kazuya. Yeah, more. Yeah. I did really have to think about it though. I'd also really have to think about 9th place, and I like to think that when I do make my final decision, Yazzie will understand, or she would.
I heard the manga was super great, but I heard the season 2 was so bad, I didn't even bother watching the first episode. Enjoyed season 1, but again, this is one of the shows that got super inflated and super overhyped, and then unfortunately, it let a lot of fans down.
In a hypothetical universe where a second season of The Promised Neverland got made that completely ruined everything and butchered the entire back half of the manga. She might even take the bullet with me. I mean, season 1, the only season, was the anime that finally convinced her yaoi and mecha loving ass to give literally any Shonen Jump series besides Haikyuu a shot. And in that hypothetical universe, she would have developed Shonen Jump related trust issues so severe that it would have taken her years to finally give Jujutsu Kaisen, her favorite anime and manga ever, a real shot. Luckily, we don't live in that universe. But that does mean that I do have an inexplicable blank space in 9th place on this list.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, season 1 was great. It had a compelling concept and a compelling story, but even with how good season 1 was, it is definitely not a 10 out of 10. I would say probably if there was just solely season 1, 6 or 7. It's still not that great.
Which I'm now gonna have to fill by hyping you up about the worst anime I haven't finished watching yet. From the statistically worst anime director to ever do it, Yoshiteru Sato. A director who isn't a director at all, in fact, but rather the vice president of a video game company called Idea Factory, who stood up in a board meeting one day back in 1999 and said, "Hey, why do we need to hire an anime director to adapt our games? I like anime. How hard can it be?
Let's finish this freak off! Come on! Now you demon scumbag!
I don't know about you guys, but that looks so bad it just could be interesting.
The Idea Factory collection ranges from terabad short film recaps of already not very good strategy RPGs, like that clip you just saw, to literally just all of the cutscenes from an awful visual novel crammed onto a DVD for no apparent reason. None of them are good. Some barely qualify as anime to begin with, and Sato made a shocking amount of them for a man with literally no talent or prior experience. Which is why I still have a lot of work to do on that particular roast and like half an entire TV show to watch, and it's gonna be a minute before that finally comes out because all of those things are a real
It looks crazy.
I do hope that you'll look forward to it when it's done, in the same way that you are looking forward to a season of The Promised Neverland, season 2. That's gonna happen eventually, right? Because it hasn't happened yet, but it could happen eventually. And, you know, hopefully when it does come out, it's gonna make up for this spot on the list being inexplicably blank. I don't know how that happened. I'm sorry. Speaking of things I wish I could take back, though, 6 years and 9 months ago, I declared that the Master of Ragnarok and Blesser of Einherjar was the worst isekai.
I haven't even heard of this show, so unless it's the smartphone one but I'm not entirely sure.
And I was objectively correct, but only for like 2 months. For little did I realize that the shambling husk of Studio Gonzo was about to release one of its final corpse farts in the form of a zero-effort tie-in anime for a low-effort remake of Conception, the mediocre PSP Persona knockoff in which you knocked up your social links, including your own cousin, then used your own children in battle as Pokemon.
That sounds... You know, that sounds pretty bad. That sounds crazy. But you got to give props. It does sound very unique. Not that I would necessarily watch it, but...
As child abuse simulators go, the game itself is fine. I can't really think of literally any reason for a person to play it, even back in 2012 when Persona 3 Portable had already existed for an entire year. But, like, there is something refreshing about an isekai that just cuts out the middleman and makes its protag save the world by fucking a bunch of random waifus, or, you know, do a magic get pregnant ritual off screen with a bunch of waifus because the dictates of console gaming basically force this to be a pseudo ecchi for cultureless cowards. At least those waifus are cute, though. In the game, I mean, where they were drawn by the ReZero artist, not after what Gonzo did to them. This isn't quite the studio's ugliest anime, at least not on the outside. Tri-Nights is a thing after all. Ooh, Oh, sweet Jesus, Kun, it moves!
That looks like Blue Lock Season 2.
But on the inside, I mean, take all the problems inherent to adapting just the bare bones dating sim bits of a story designed to be carried by an entire supplementary dungeon crawler, add an excruciatingly awkward lack of chemistry with waifus who are only PG-13 boning protag-kun because it's their destiny or whatever, multiply that by the death throes of a company 3 years out from hawking NFTs just to keep the lights on, and divide it all by the number of jokes which are actually funny, and oh no, it was zero. Zero of the jokes in this harem isekai parody comedy anime are funny. And the least funny part, by far, is Mana, Protag-kun's horny talking raccoon wingwoman, who in all my years of professional...
I don't know why Japan does it, but they do have this thing where they just have super annoying mascots. And I don't know why. And they always have the same super high, frilly, annoying voice.
Anime enjoyment has only been surpassed in her annoyingness by one other aggravating cartoon mascot thing. She sings...
Oh, I don't want to pause on that. Like Genshin Impact's Paimon, or... That's kind of the quickest example I can think of.
Levels up this boring, sauceless slog of an isekai into actual torture, which only gets more severe with each passing episode, though thankfully there are only 12 of those, so it could be a lot worse. It could be number 7.
One of the biggest letdowns that I experienced watching anime. Really enjoyed, I think the first season was actually... At the time, I probably thought it was like a 7 or an 8. Now, retrospectively looking at it, it was more like a 4 or 5, knowing what was to come. But it had its definite cool moments. The opening was actually really good as well, but it just went downhill and some of the animation really dropped the ball. So, super disappointing. Talk about disappointment category that he just had. I think this was peak disappointment.
Deadly Sins.
Oof. And this guy, Escanor, he was supposed to be like the coolest of the cool. They did the show so dirty. And yet, they still try to do mobile games. Even on the Xbox showcase that I watched yesterday, or yesterday's stream, they're still shilling for this series. And they had so much money, and they gave this quality.
Now, some out there might accuse me of only ranking Nanatsu no Taizai higher than those other 3 crappy anime just so I could make that terrible joke, but rest assured, if anything, I'm putting...
And they made a spinoff. They made, or a continuation of this series as well, which is, I think, equally as bad.
Putting it lower on the list than it should be just so I could make that terrible joke. If that hypothetical gunman came back right now, I would pull the trigger for him. Throughout my entire decade-long career, I have never, I mean never, had less fun watching anime than I did binging this crap after you guys voted for me to roast it. Admittedly, part of that is on me. I am never watching 100 episodes of anything in a week ever again.
They have over 100 episodes. That is insane.
And to be fair, the first 20 were mid, but a very mindlessly enjoyable kind of mid. Then the next 15 or so were a thoroughly passable kind of mid. The 17 after that, a mind-numbing sort of mid that you push through, mostly because you vaguely remember enjoying the show once.
You just get more and more brain damage the more you watch it, and just more disappointed. I stopped probably at like the 25, 30 episode mark when it just really got convoluted and stupid.
At some point many years ago, and you hope to one day get back there again. Then the 24 that follow those slowly but surely choke that hope out of you down to the very last drip, squeezing just a little harder with each passing plot beat as the lore falls apart before your...
Or maybe I did watch more of this than I think I did.
eyes, and each hero's backstory in turn reveals that every single one of them is a worse monster than the last, until you can scarcely remember a time in your entire life, let alone during this binge sesh, where you ever felt anything at all, and you legitimately can't decide whether it's funnier to tweet 7 deadly frames or 7 deadly sex offenders. But hey, you're over the hump by that point. There's only 24 more episodes left to go, and you've invested so much time in this story already. There's got to be some kind of payoff waiting for you at the end. I mean, how much worse could it possibly?
How dare you think that you can defy a mountain? Really? I blow away mountains for breakfast.
Oh.
That can't be real. That is awful.
Okay, so we're just doing the entire final boss fight twice, are we? Like, repeating every plot beat in the same order, only he possesses a palette-swapped version of Meliodas the second time, and you really thought we wouldn't notice what you were doing there, and then that still wasn't enough to pad the whole anime out, so you trot out this random bonus boss we've never heard of who just shows up to fight everyone until there's exactly 24 episodes worth of content? Holy shit, dude, you're making Reiji Miyajima look like he respects my time. After all that, it almost feels like a footnote to say that the worst mascot thing I've ever seen also happens to be in this anime. And what's really crazy is the walking power level and bad joke dispenser isn't even the worst character, cause goddamn Gother exists. But speaking of insufferable animals and actual literal sex criminals, the 6th worst anime I've ever suffered through is My Life as Inukai-sans Dog. The anime about a teenage virgin who inexplicably turns into a puppy, then gets adopted by his hot classmate who turns out to...
I mean, how bad can this be, you know?
Like dogs a little too much.
Okay,
now, you
never
might
mind.
Hear all that and assume that the core problem with Inukai-sans Dog is that it's an anime which aired on television somehow about a teenage girl really wanting to fuck her dog. And that is part of it, a big part even. But the bigger problem is the complete and utter lack of literally anything else. Here we have a chilling sci-fi setting in which someone out there has figured out how to manipulate the human genome and turn people into animals against their will, and yet every line of every scene of every episode is just about dog fucking. There is not a single problem in the Inukai-verse that cannot be solved by fucking a dog. Bored and lonely? Fuck a dog. Miss your childhood friend who turned into a dog? Obviously you gotta go fuck that dog.
Okay, never mind. That is pretty crazy. But I heard the manga was like super duper popular, so I don't know. Take that with what you will.
Dog. Scared of dogs? Fuck a dog, you'll get right over it. Even when the mysterious masterminds behind the scenes finally tip their hand, revealing the full extent of their sinister conspiracy, just take a wild guess what the cure for being turned into a dog is. It's easy to dismiss Inukai as basically just a hentai that got on TV somehow, but frankly, sir, that is an insult to hentai. Hentai has plots, characters, lore, high-concept geopolitics, magic systems that are fueled by fucking many different things.
It's art.
This is mindless gooner slop of the lowest order. And to see the difference, you need look no further than last season's much better anime about an elf who really wants to fuck her cat.
You know, I did a manga short about this, and he's not wrong, but he's not entirely right. I guess I didn't read that far, but I actually heard a lot of people like this anime. A lot more than the previous one.
Or you can just watch The Last Hottest Trash if that's too cultured for you to handle. But all of this begs the question, we're only halfway down this list. What could possibly be worse than Inukai? You'll find out in just a sec after this word from our sponsor.
There we go.
Back to the anime atrocities, the question still remains, what could possibly top the horrors we just witnessed? How about an anime made to literally ruin people's lives? Or heck, why not? 10 of them.
I'm Helen Keller. What?
Now, we had our fun in this
Wait a second. Wait a second.
basement.
That's crazy. This is the blind lady. How can... Insane. I was not expecting that.
mocking the Happy Science movies and the man who made them, Ryuho Okawa, who's dead now.
God is dead! God is dead!
Or, if you listen to his worthless grifter kids, he's in a deep spiritual trance from which he will one day awaken and usher in a new golden age for humanity just as soon as his supporters have raised enough millions of dollars.
That is so messed up. Not only did he have his work just made fun of by everyone, now his kids are trying to profit off of him and mess everything up. Oh, it's a rough world out there sometimes.
Hey, whatever he's got going on, it hasn't stopped him from executive producing a brand new anime due out this very month, which you better believe I'm making some content out of as soon as it's translated, just for the chance to dance on his grave one more time. And when I do, I hope that his family sees it and it really hurts their feelings. Because... and this is something that can be lost in all the fun making of those roast videos. These are propaganda pieces designed to literally brainwash children.
So it's like a Scientology but anime version. Kind of interesting.
The other anime on this list may be bad, but these ones are actually evil. Of course, I'm not ranking anime on their moral standing, but technical and artistic merits, and in those respects, Happy Science's output is fine, certainly better produced than what American
What is that?
brainwash their kids, and most seasonal isekai for that matter. It's the movie's stories, for the most part, that merit all the mockery, as they oscillate between being batshit insane and just insanely boring. And the boringest of the bunch by far is The Golden Laws. You know, the one with the kids in the time machine going to learn a bunch of lies about religious figures throughout history, which also happens to be the ugliest of those movies, since it was made in that awkward transitional period between traditional and digital animation by a studio so far past their prime they were taking work from cults just to keep the lights on, which I don't know if that's worse or better than NFTs, or maybe it's the exact same. Anyway, if I had to pick just one of these movies as the absolute worst to represent them all, I guess it'd be that one, and that one is just bad enough to come in at number 5.
Man, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense that, well, I mean, there's propaganda everywhere, right? I mean, cults have enough money. It makes perfect sense that they would create, I guess, their most popular medium in Japan, which would be anime, to then try to push their own religion or cult or whatever.
Because for as many people as these films and the organization behind them have hurt over the years, they've never hurt me personally. Unlike an anime that we'll get to in just one sec. But first, I need to clarify something. My best anime ever list was not just my top 10 favorites, despite what some people think. It was an honest attempt to compile and rank the 10 best made anime that I've ever seen. Which
you'll see in another video, or my previous video, or if you're watching the live stream, you've already seen it. You know, it was interesting. Only probably 2 out of the 10 would be on my list.
is still a matter
maybe
of
3
personal taste in the end, in terms of like what I value most in anime production. Clearly, I prize visual storytelling and animation quality over a lot of other things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my picks were just the most Jeff Core anime possible. For example, on a favorites list, instead of Cowboy Bebop, I would have expressed my love for peak 90s cell animated sci-fi with Irresponsible Captain Tyler, which, if you haven't seen, one of the best retrospectives I've ever made, low-key, is this goofy space opera about basically a horny Mr. Bean captaining the starship Enterprise in a war with sexy space elves.
That could be interesting enough to watch.
Amazing. But it's also frustratingly incomplete, especially compared to Bebop. Tyler's anime never got to adapting even half of all the light novels, leaving massive questions hanging as to the ultimate fate of its world and characters, and even how the war shook out. So you can probably imagine my insane levels of excitement when I heard they were finally making a sequel slash spin-off starring the kids of the characters, which lasted until I saw exactly the first frame of Irresponsible Galaxy Tyler.
That's always the worst, when you're super excited for something and then they just butcher it. I'm trying to think of a good example of what that would be right now. I mean, I guess One Punch Man Season 2 for a lot of people. You definitely have, for me, a surprise pick to some, it might be Megaloboxing Season 2. That was disappointing. or even a lot of people don't like the second half of Death Note. I mean, it happens to the best and it happens to the worst.
That was quite possibly the worst thing that has ever happened to me personally. And my dad is dead. Plenty of fandoms
That is awful.
have been kicked in the teeth by anime studios over the years, but this was like being curb stomped repeatedly. Then they take the boot with your teeth embedded in it and put their full weight directly on your balls. Though,
Man, this guy was really hurt by this show.
as bad as Galaxy Tyler is, at least the whole thing's over in less than half an hour, and the pain it induces is only emotional. All of the anime on this list are ones I'd call hard to watch in one way or another, but nowhere is that description more apt than with number 3. Handshakers. The only anime I know of with the power to literally, no hyperbole, make a person physically ill. Not due to any gross, weird...
Well, just wait. There's a AI anime that I think either is airing this season or next season, and it's all going to be AI generated. So it might just take Handshakers for a ride.
stuff in the story. Well, not just that.
弟のこと愛してるって変かしらね
Mostly it's the motion sickness that does it. See, over at Studio Gohands, they direct their anime a little differently. Where
I mean, they were just super ambitious, right? At the end of the day, they were like Icarus. They reached for the sun and they got flamed hard.
other studios might zig, they zag, then zag again, then do a little loop-de-loop, ollie into a wall ride, into a front-side manual, and cap it all off with a 360 no-scope.
Because conceptually, I mean, I never watched the series because, I mean, just look at it. But even looking at that sequence, you can see what they're going for, and they unfortunately just fell flat on their face.
And that's just to show a guy walking down a hall. Wait till you see their action scenes. But, maybe take a Gravol before you do. I have seen these motherfuckers, honest to Haruhi, put the camera inside the floor just because they can.
Okay, that is kind of crazy.
And the reason they can is thanks to the experimental digital hybrid over-animation style that they completely failed to implement in Handshakers. With vomit-shaded color grading, non-existent compositing, wildly inconsistent asset scaling, and its 3D and 2D frame rates dizzyingly out of sync with each other.
But, I mean, you really can see what they're trying to go for, so I wouldn't say this is the worst anime. I guess his thing says literally hard to watch, but I mean, you got to give them props. They tried to do something no one else has done and they failed. So I wonder if a competent studio tried the same thing, how much everyone would be gushing over it.
Shakers clipped into the floor and ragdolled into the sun, so its many younger sister series could one day drunkenly stumble out of a bar and almost make it down all the stairs. And impressively, the show's story is even harder to follow than that action. Unless you've seen Fate, in which case, it's literally just Fate. The whole plot's a
No. Fate is good. Don't listen to him. Fate is great.
Grail war with the serial numbers filed off, except instead of historical heroes, the wizards end up teaming up with submissive little bondage pets, amnesiac child brides, their sisters that they're boning, and other such things. Also, they charge their powers up in an even lewder way than the original Fate hentai games.
その力はどこから来るのか手をつなぐことさ
But as god-awful as the CGI is, and as bad
Hence why it's called Handshakers. That is a crazy thing to pause on. I can see why this makes someone super sick, especially if you have a big screen and it's just zooming all over the place. They gain powers from holding hands.
baffling as the story can be, both sides of Handshakers could still be a lot worse. And you'll see exactly how much as we finally crown the absolute worst anime of all time. Which may sound premature, since if you can count, you know there are 2 numbers below 3. However, I just cannot decide which of my bottom 2 is truly worse than the other, and X-Arm and Gibiate had so much in common.
Gibiate, again, me and my dad watch a lot of animes, and he loved Gibiate, and I have no idea why. I absolutely did not enjoy it. It's funny but sad.
common, I figure we may as
X-Arm is such an easy, and Ghost in the Shell are two, these are easy to punch down on and make fun of. So it makes sense.
talk about them both at the same time and try to figure that out together. On the one hand, we've got a bunch of film industry assholes who stumbled drunkenly into an anime studio one day, boldly declared
That was crazy.
that they were going to create a new kind of action never before seen in the medium with their elite live-action directing skills. Furthermore, went on to declare war on literally all of science fiction around the entire planet with their adaptation of a middling Ghost in the Shell knockoff, and then it looked like this.
You know, and the CGI definitely did not help. And I don't think even if it was regular anime animation, it would have done any better. Already trying to jump into the anime community as a pretentious film director and you're going CGI. I think the only actual legitimate CGI piece of anime that kind of pulled it off was Berserk, the Golden Age arcs. And that wasn't the greatest. I'm sure it would have been better if it was drawn by like a top tier company like maybe Mappa or something like that. But at least the Golden Age arcs were good. Otherwise, as far as CGI goes, Kengan Ashura wasn't bad. It's not the greatest, but I mean, I at least enjoyed the series enough to watch it all the way through. And actually, believe it or not, the drawn stuff was, I'd say, worse than the competent CGI they had. So there is definitely ways to make it work, but at least do your research before jumping into something, you know? That is crazy though.
On the other hand, we're forced to watch in very, very slow real time as the infinite possibility of an original anime story is
I think we got 2, maybe 3 episodes in, and it was awful, at least for me. Again, my dad enjoyed it, but I'm kind of glad we jumped into watching something else.
utterly squandered by a screenwriter with negative talent, while a team of elite Japanese artisans, whom the entire project was supposedly made to celebrate, have their swords and dolls and character designs utterly butchered beyond recognition by the studio that would one day give us In Another World for a second time. And somehow that was an improvement? Actually, it's not a mystery how that happened. The Nepo Baby screenwriter is also the lead producer, and he is equally skilled in that role.
I mean, just look at that. It's insane how people sat in a boardroom and were like, yeah, this is a great idea. This looks great. Well, I guess in Japan or in any business sense, if you just had the boss man or the boss man's son being like, we're doing this and I love this, it's like, well, whatever you say, boss. But actually, thinking about it, you know what was another huge disappointment? Record of Ragnarok. It was literally PowerPoint animation. In the manga, peak easily 8, 9, 10 manga. And they butchered that as well. I haven't even watched the second or third. I heard it got slightly better, and for some reason a lot of people enjoy it, but Record of Ragnarok, that's another one I was thinking of that's just disappointing.
It's honestly impossible to decide which of these to hate more. It's apples to oranges, or like projectile vomit to projectile diarrhea.
Do you want just pure bad CGI, or do you want really bad drawings with CGI?
And the fact that they were both in production at the same time, for the same platform, under the same branding, does leave me feeling a little tempted to just give the entire top slot to Crunchyroll Originals as the norovirus of anime and call it a day. But as clever as that insult is, and as much as I'd like to make space to hate on Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammers anime again, it just wouldn't be fair to all the other legitimately good shows that came out of the program, or even the mediocre ones, frankly.
Also another mid show, Got Up High School. It was supposed to be like top high tier manhwa, like hand in hand with Solo Leveling. And even Solo Leveling's dropped the ball. So, I mean, I guess is it the original material that was the problem, or is it just in the hands of the wrong people and we just have to deal with it?
So we gotta pick one, and that's ultimately a choice between an anime that does basically everything terribly versus one that's a bit more of a mixed bag, but
I mean, look at that. You got CGI right here and regular hand drawn, and they thought that was a good idea.
does one specific thing worse than literally anything else in history. X-Arm is at least built around the skeleton of a competent story. The manga's best quality by far is its highly detailed Gunnar core art, but it also has, if not great characters, then at least appealing character archetypes, plus a comprehensible story with a beginning, middle, and end, which you might say is a low bar to clear, but tell that to Gibiate. I don't see X-Arm being anyone's favorite manga, but it's certainly the sort of thing I can see having fans who would be excited for an anime. And of course, the flip side of the manga's quality is the same problem that Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer and that anime that doesn't exist in 9th place have. That decent story has been done dirty by a terrible adaptation, which forever precludes the possibility of a better one existing. And obviously, X-Arm's story is nowhere near on the level of The Promised Neverland or a Satoshi Mizukami manga, but on the flip side, neither of those anime did their source material anywhere near this dirty. I mean, Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer didn't, because, you know, The Promised Neverland couldn't have, because it never had a second season. Point is, as manga adaptations go, X-Arm was done the dirtiest ever.
I mean, it was that, and then I wonder if I don't want to get copyright strike, but in your own time, look up like Ghost in the Shell clip or something like that, and then it's like literally in the show 20-30 seconds of just constant backflips. It is ridiculous. It's gonna sound really bad and this could ruffle a lot of feathers. It reminds me of Ruby when it first started, like just the online web funding of it.
It's got all the problems you'd expect to see in a live-action director's debut anime. Storyboards hopelessly constrained by the limits of reality and the fundamental misunderstanding of how to time animation, chief among them, compounded by the show using the most difficult
Lots of crazy frames. I might just have to watch this for a laugh.
Animation process to get right, further compounded by a team of film and game industry dudes who know even less about 3D CG anime than most 2D animators. And if that's not enough compounding for you, they made it at the height of COVID on a Crunchyroll Originals budget. X-Arm is, by a massive margin, the worst rigged, modeled, and animated 3D CG I have ever seen on television, and I grew up on Monster by mistake. But speaking of monsters and mistakes, the monsters in Gibiate do almost give X-Arm a run for its terrible CGI money.
Very true, very true.
In the little but still way too much time they spend on screen. And that is just the tip of a gargantuan shitberg. The show's 2D animation and art direction is equally atrocious, taking Yoshitaka Amano's distinctive character designs and simplifying them in a way that doesn't actually make them any easier to animate, while
but it does look better than X-Arm, so I'll give it that.
Still robbing them of all their charm. Not a single one of the characters behind those designs is remotely likable. The story is borderline incomprehensible, and the backstory / lore is legitimately some of the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life.
It's literally two criminals on a boat get like transported into the future where all these bug insect things take over. Maybe they were summoned if I remember correctly, but that's the basic plot.
Gibiate is an anime with infinite shortcomings and zero redeeming qualities, which probably should make it the cut and dry winner or loser of this competition, but it's facing off against a show that comes up so short in one specific area that I'm not sure any other quality could redeem it. And X-Arm doesn't have a lot of qualities to begin with, especially not when the story gets into anime original territory. At the end of the day, they're both fundamentally unwatchable 0 out of 10 shows, either of which could proudly wear this crown. But when I imagine that gun to my head, the thought of watching Gibiate again does make me want to die just a little bit more, so I guess that's the worst one. But
he has not seen Yakitori or Mako My Day. I mean, at least story-wise, they were both very bad. I haven't seen all of X-Arms, so or I haven't even seen X-Arms. This is the most I've seen of it.
I would love to hear your opinions on which is worse in the comments down below. Anyway, thank you for watching this video and all the old ones to make my suffering a little more worth it. If you want to see me not suffer for a change, remember to check out.
So that was Mother Basement's top 10 worst anime. And I agree with some of it, and I think there's worse animes out there. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down below what are the worst animes, or if you think the ones I mentioned or he mentioned were actually good. And let me know if you want me to do like my top 10 anime or top worst animes, but more in depth than what I did today. Any other video ideas you have, or if you like content like this of me kind of reacting and giving my commentary on videos. I've been Boog the Goob. Thank you for watching. May God bless you and peace.